Hi, I'm gonna call this video Seismic Shift. This is just an idea that it's just a thought that comes in my mind. Um, Normally, I show movies or movies that I have collected over the years, like 16 millimeter films, and I just like to project them and show it to other people who may like who like these types of films, or are interested in film studies. And sometimes I always like to share ideas or things happening in the world or things. And I also think that films also reflect our realities, even though it's artificial realities, but in a way it's always projected through film or thought. Though films always end, I believe there's also endings in cycles. Seasons also end, economies end, lifestyles end, trends end, culture ends. There's always a change that happens, that reoccurs I believe, maybe every 4 or 6 years. And it's just something that I've been aware of over my experiences of following trends. There are certain studies that things aren't always permanent. There's always this disruption, and there's always this kind of cleansing that always has to be done by everybody or humanity. In my realization, I believe that I'm coming to realize that there's always a beginning, or there's always something that ends, but there's always a new emerging of something new. And I guess the majority of people can't adapt to change, which I myself am a victim of that. And I'm just kind of want to share what I thought about it. And I just think every generation goes through some sort of transition, some kind of mass change, consciousness that disrupts the way of living, anything that, and it's just, and if you look in past histories, like the 20th century, there's been many huge transitions that are basically, just we're being taught these kind of mass changes that happen, especially in the U.S., where there's have been changes where people have adapted, but there's been a mass drop of populations of about a 10-year kind of droughts or sufferings, like the Great Depression, especially World Wars, World War I, World War II, that have taken place over that century, that have affected many people. But I guess in this new era that we're entering, I guess the 21st century, this is a very different kind of change, where it's mixing wars, technology, consciousness. This is like this big glob of stuff that are just kind of, where it's kind of exhausted. It's being so exhausted. But in my belief is that look at past experiences, past generations, where there has been change, but people have gone through it. Of course, not with pain and suffering and adaptation. But I just think that we are humans, or we're light beings, where I just think that we gotta prepare for uncertain times and have a strong spirit, mind, consciousness. Also, health goes into it. People have to have a strong will to adapt to these kind of changes. Where also I believe like the word transition or change or transformation is a new word or keyword that's kind of being announced in a lot of different mediums, and we should just keep a lookout on how things are changing with people changing their lifestyles. So a lot of there's this new kind of breaking free from past forms of norms in society, which we're also changing, which has been changing gradually over the last 20 or 30 years. I don't know. I think it's from nitpicking from society, like magazines and media, TV, film. The word that's really stuck to me in the last couple of months or this year, perhaps, is the word transition. There's many stuff now that are coming out, like transitioning. Transhumanism is another. Many companies, banks are coming up. There's many things that are surrounding the word trans. There's a lot of new technologies now in medicine where it's changing our human bodies. People making changes to their body, adding artificial hearts. I also believe that we're kind of in some kind of like endless loop of a certain generation. I believe it's from the late 70s, 80s, and I believe also 90s. It's just kind of like recycled of that same decade of trends, style, fashion, music. You're seeing that this doesn't seem to be anything that's kind of breaking through and creating a new form of lifestyle or a form of in means of in media, TV. I mean, technology is expanding, but we're still in that kind of, we're stuck in that realm of trends from the late 70s, 80s. I believe from what I studied and is like the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, especially the 1920s. Everything at that period was a new. Everything that was introduced in that period was breaking. That everything was innovative. Everything was new. It broke from the past. It broke from the trend from the past, early at the beginning of that century. Everything from the 1920s was groundbreaking in form of automobile design and clothes, music, fashion. Everything broke from past, and everything in that decade, it was fresh, and it all continued within the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. Everything in those 5-6 decades was brand new in the 20th century. And I believe the 80s and on to the 2000s, we saw a recycled of the past decades. So we haven't seen anything really that has created a new form of a new decade, a new identity. Also, with the 1920s, we had the breaking of new technologies from the invention of film and photography, where silent film started moving into sound, color. And in the 1930s and 40s, we saw the explosion of TV, radio. Everything at that period was groundbreaking. It was introduced to the world as nothing that was a replica of a past invention. At that period, it was especially with the Industrial Revolution, and also art played a big part. Everything in that period was new. There was new artists coming out with new movements, expressionism, pop art. So I mean, those decades before the 80s or 70s, everything was new. And I believe we're still stuck in this certain trend, which my discussion here is just basically saying that I believe that many people feel that we're not moving forward because there isn't some. But I believe we're breaking through at this moment in this beginning of this century, that we are going to be thrown into this new era. I mean, there's many studies and also a lot of reports, especially a lot of culture studies, a lot of media people are saying that we're going to go through changes that are quite different from any other that have taken place in the last 500 years. So we should all brace for something different. But I believe that a lot of these the videos that are always predicting doom and everything, I don't think that's what's gonna happen. I think it's gonna end this form of cycle, and we're gonna break into a new era. So this is just basically my ideas, even though they're oversimplified. It's just kind of my view or perception on what I've have come to realize. I mean, I guess everybody should research their own, come up with their own opinions. But I believe we all have similar. There's a lot of other commentaries on Western culture on this last century, which is kind of similar opinion as mine. Everybody should go back, I guess, look at the history of media, technology, fashion, art, and come up with comparisons. And I think it's quite interesting to see this kind of endless loop we're in, which I think we're ready to break through. Well, thank you, and I will be going back to from time to time showing going back to my collection of films, and also share ideas and thoughts and inspiring things, I guess, come out on things happening or things that I want to bring to and share, I guess. Thanks. Bye.